Matthew, talking to the Jewish people, had to show that the Christ would be born from a Jewish heritage. And therefore, he goes back 14 generations, all the way back to Abraham, and underlines all the main people that were involved in the genealogy of our Lord Jesus Christ. Of course, the question is, Jacob begat Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom was born Jesus, who was called Christ. But it doesn't say that Joseph begat Christ, because he didn't. He was not the father of our Lord Jesus Christ. This particular chapter also starts the genealogy from Abraham. Why Abraham? Why not Adam and Eve, where our first parents were? Why not? The reason for that is that in the time of Adam and Eve and their generations, the world came into such a chaos that it had to be reformed, and it was reformed by the Great Flood. And all the geology and all the things that we see today in the world is the result of that flood, no matter where you are. And no matter how old some particular scientists might say something is, they are basically seeing the results of the flood. But you see, Abraham, who was the one that was asked to sacrifice his son, you can imagine if somebody asked you to sacrifice your son, what sort of great difficulty that would pose to you. He did not disobey that command, but took his son up to the mountain and was ready to slaughter him as burnt offerings, which is the way the Jewish people worshipped at that time. An angel of the Lord, of course, stopped him. And he was told that on account of his obedience, that his generations will bring forth the Christ. And so it was. But as the Holy Fathers point out to us, the various personalities in the genealogy are not necessarily what we would call good fellows. There are good ones amongst them, but there are also great sinners and murderers and adulterers and all those sorts of things. And this too is a great lesson for us, because whatever your forefathers did, however you were brought up, and all those sorts of things, whilst you have life, you have a chance to change that life. You are not bound by a metaphysical genealogy to your foreparents. You might have a bound that is genetic physically, but not metaphysically. So you do not have to take upon yourself their behavior and their improvisations or their inspirations or anything like this. In other words, the son is not responsible for the sins of his father. And so with this sort of genealogy, it was shown to the Jewish people that they needn't be afraid, because Christ did indeed come from the race to whom the truth was given through Abraham. But Abraham here is the important point. The obedience that he showed, that's the important point. Quite frankly, after that obedience, many of these others went into such horrible things and think, how can these people ever be relatives of the Lord? But that again is to our benefit, so as not to think that somehow we are preordained by our genealogy to be saved or not to be saved. This week I had some conversations with people who brought forth issues concerning times, dates, etc. As you all know, the Western fallen world wants you to believe in long time periods, millions of years, whatever, but they have no proof for this at all. A true archaeologist, a true studier of these ancient texts will tell you that whenever something is found of some curious nature that was owned by humans, it can be dated because during that period something was recorded, and that recording clearly puts it into a period which is certainly no longer than about 5,000 to 6,000 years. Anything beyond that, when you hear somebody say 2 million years ago, you think, hang on a minute. You know, if we counted each centimetre as 1 year, then 5,000 centimetres is half a kilometre, is that right? But 2 million centimetres is way past the western suburbs and somewhere else. How could we know what happened there when we have no true written record in anything that we can compare about? And thus, these are some of the issues that you need to be dealing with, because I can tell you one thing, all these generations that are talked about had the similar issues that we have today, in that each generation has to be brought up. It has to be brought up. It cannot inherit the knowledge of the truth just by itself. It has to be brought up. And this is the tragedy of our world today. About 30 years ago, when we were doing some missionary work in the Netherlands, the people there told us that the Netherlands had become a pagan country. Pagan country. I said, why? He said, because they had rejected Christ, their heritage, and left a vacuum. So if that vacuum is left, whatever is in the air can be sucked into there, and they can become believers of all sorts of things. And this week we see young children in school, maybe age 7, 8, 9, having a mosque day. All the girls come in their jabs or whatever they call them, and they have what they call them, a mufti or something, and he talks to them, they makes them do bows and all sorts of things, and it's all like fun. And they think nothing of it, and their parents think nothing of it, because they've lost Christ. Don't be surprised if something like that occurs here as well. Don't be surprised. Already, the idea of meditation, all those sorts of things are present at schools. And teachers often ask you if you're behaving badly, would you like to go and meditate in room so-and-so? There is a teacher there that will show you how to meditate. In other words, how to speak to demons. One other thing I'd like you to take away with you, and hopefully remember this. It's so easy to remember. It's from Isaiah 7:14. 7:14. Isaiah 7:14. Behold, a virgin shall be with child, and bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel. That's all it is. That puts to shame anybody who believes either in the Old Testament or the New Testament or whatever testament, but it's quite a clear indication that the mother of the Lord is going to be a virgin. And she's going to bring forth a son. And they're going to call his name Emmanuel, which means God with us. Try and remember that. 7:14 Isaiah. You will be surprised how many times you can use that whenever you talk to people, and it will really wake them up and get them to get a better understanding of how the Old Testament is so closely linked to the New Testament. But because the Old Testament found a fulfiller of all its laws, namely the Mother of God, something better had to be given. And that something better is what we await here next Sunday with the Nativity Veil of Jesus Christ. Let us say with our